1995 KTM 300 Australia model. Just going through how I try to diagnose whether you have a stator issue or whether you've got a voltage regulator issue or whether you've got a main wiring harness issue. So the method I use to determine what's working and what's not, say for example you're blowing headlights and globes and you don't know what's going on, and I just start from this process. The first thing I do is I disconnect off the capacitor the wiring and disconnect all the stator wiring. I power the main wiring harness with 12 volts DC. So you can do this via a car battery. I just use a cordless drill battery connected up to a voltage regulator that I got from J-Car, which is probably a Radio Shack equivalent. Basically it takes 18 volts DC. You twist this little knob here and then it changes the output to 12 volt DC, and then it just put some ring terminals on that. I mean, you could use a car battery or you can buy a power source. They're not that expensive, but I had this lying around, so I just used it. So I connect that one up to the main wiring harness. So brown is the earth and red is the live or the positive. So connect that up that way. And once that's powered up, it means you've got 12 volt DC to the whole wiring harness, and you can flick your blinkers and flash all your lights and make sure that all your brake switches and everything work. And that way you can guarantee that you've got all the correct functioning globes and just making sure that that all works. And that's really nice to know. So once you've done that and all your lights work, and all the blinkers flash, etc., then you can start to look at the voltage regulator. So I connect up these two wires, the blue and the yellow, to the stator. So the stator output goes into the input of the voltage regulator, and then it spits out 12 volt DC through these two wires here. So when you start the bike up and that's connected, you should have 12 volts DC across this. So if you're having super high voltages, such as like 30 volts plus, or even super low voltages, so 1 or 2 volts, if it's high voltage, you've got a problem with your voltage regulator. If it's low voltage, you could have a regulator and or stator problem. So then that brings you to the next stage, is I plug the multimeter into the stator output and kick over the bike and start it, and then that should read 30 volts AC. So I would recommend using a multimeter on the AC setting. So don't just use the auto mode. For some reason I had trouble reading the voltage, but if you click on your multimeter and if you select AC voltage, it just works a lot better. So if you're getting 30 volts AC out of that, then your stator's good. Then that leads into the rectifier, and then you should get 12 volts AC out of that. 12 volt DC out of that, and then that should power your whole loom. So those are the steps you need to take. I would also recommend checking your capacitors as well. So this is the original capacitor. This one's shot. So just making sure it's got continuity between the two terminals. And if you've got a multimeter, you've got a capacitor function on it, you can measure the farads, and the farads on this, it's underneath the label there, but it's 10,000, hold on 1 sec. There it is, 10,000 microfarads as well. So the capacitor largely just holds charge, so that when the RPM drops, it gives it a little bit of juice just to power the lights. And I think some of the other models may have had a battery which is connected to here, but for the KTM 395 it just didn't have it in Australia. So that's the process I use to diagnose this problem. So 30 volts AC out of that, or around about that, 12 volts DC once it goes through the regulator, and then making sure that if you connect 12 volt DC up to that, all the lights work. So hopefully that all together gets you out of trouble, and yeah, good luck.